Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
In 1802, Joseph Shields and his family moved from Virginia to settle on the Georgia frontier near what is now the town of Jefferson, Georgia. They eventually cleared and worked almost 400 acres before Joseph's death in 1818. The farm was later operated by Joseph's son, James, and then his grandson, Joseph Robert. When Joseph Robert's wife died in 1896, he asked his daughter, Susan Shields, to return home and operate the farm with her new husband, Ira Ethridge. The farm eventually became a farming center for the community. It maintained a commissary store, grist and wheat mills, a school with teacher quarters, a large and modern cotton mill, and a sawmill. Much of what was built in the first half of the last century remains at the Shields Ethridge Farm, thanks to the family that still lives there and the volunteers that serve this historic open-air museum. Susan Chaisson Ethridge is the 6th generation to live on the farm.
You know, they have always embraced the community, and it's very evident in what they have done in building all these buildings that you see here. All of them dating back to 1909. And the family has just, through all those years, preserved this farm. We have been so fortunate that they have been able to keep it, to pay the taxes on it, and to think that the importance of it was massive, you know, to be able to hold it in the same family for all these years.
This was the commissary, known as a lot of us would call this store a general merchandise store further in the South that would carry anything from groceries to hardware, plumbing supplies, engine oil, fuel filters, oil filters for cars. Even carried a variety of car parts such as radiator caps, and you'll see over on this wall most of that was automotive type stuff, different brands of oil. On this side was groceries, and a lot of these items are still was never opened. These are not just cans sitting in here, they're actually food items in cans that was never sold. The store closed sometime in the mid-60s, but this farm was 600 to 700 acres, and it had several tenant farmers. This was a tobacco cutter that a man that chews tobacco could come in and get a cut of tobacco. When they sold tobacco like this was just a rolled up, twisted tobacco with the leaves rolled up very tight, and a cut was about 8 inches long. And they'd come in and say, "I'd like a cut of tobacco." Well, he put it in here. It's got measurements on here if they just wanted to chew or a certain cut. You'd push that down and he would buy his tobacco. You'll see items down this wall that's a lot of it is you have some little torches there that was used on putting lead when you would put drain pipe together using lead. That's what those are. In the back here to where you can see new turning plow points and plow stop points that was never sold. A new mule bridle. When we plowed corn get up this high, the mule would be walking through the middle, just biting the corn all the time, not paying attention. You could actually put this over his nose, put a string across his head and pull it up, and that kept him from biting the corn, and that's what you call a mule muzzle. These were very popular in the South. They had new collars that's never been sold. They have gotten old and rotten looking, but the bits and the bridles and a new set of 2-horse check lines that was never sold. A brand new Oliver Goober. A Goober was a second the smallest plow Oliver made was a number 6, which a lot of people refer to them as a pony plow. They had a shorter beam and a little smaller bottom. The Goober was the next size up, and then the next one that was very popular in the South was called an AC. And then you went up to a BCX, which was a horse and a half. Over in this area, that was a lot of the hardwired bolts, nails. You had nails in kegs. Now those nails were sold as by the pound, and you'd bag them up, put them in the little scale here and weigh them, and they sold the nails by the pound. Now we had fertilizer back in the 30s and 40s that came in 200-pound bags, and we still have some bags. It's not fertilizer, we just put some stuff in them to make it look like that. 486, and you'll see written here 200 pounds. Now you can imagine how hard it is to handle a 50-pound bag of fertilizer, but imagine a 200-pound. And they were most all of the farm men could take a 200-pound bag of fertilizer, put it on his shoulder, and tote it across the field and set it off to be used in the planter. We're in the Grist Mill building. I want to start over on the side. We had this is the corn sheller that you actually drop an ear of corn in. You turn this by hand. The corn comes out in the barrel down here. The cob comes out here on the side. They would shell this corn. When they would shell it, they brought it over here to a box. This is a box with a screen in it that would actually let the corn fall through, but it would catch a lot of husk or a piece of maybe a shuck that would be in the corn. You'd get it, and that would sift it out, and then it goes down into this container here, and this then you had a little trap door here you could pull up, and it drops that corn, it runs in. This was a conveyor belt that's actually got little cups on it. It picked this corn up, carry it up, dump it up into the big box up there right over the grist mill. Right. When the corn comes into this big vat up here, you see the little wooden handle that you can actually slide in and out. You can pull it, and it lets the corn run into this. And then I'm going to turn it on just a minute so you can see it running. We have the grist mill hooked up to an electric motor now. This shakes the corn down into this. It goes into you have one stationary rock and one that turns. And when it grinds the meal, it blows it out here on the side, comes in here. You have a screen here, and you catch the meal. And also, when the corn comes in, if I was grinding corn, when the neighbor or the farmer brought his corn in to be ground, we had what we called a toll scoop. You'd take your say if he had 5 gallons of corn, it might take 1 or 2 scoops, ever how they measured it. And that's how they got their pay for grinding the corn. And if you'll notice up here, you got different sizes of those for a different amount of corn that you'd be grinding. We were talking about opening the rocks. You loosen the tension off of this. You can turn this, that separates the rocks. If you want the rocks to make cornmeal, you turn this until you hear the rocks rubbing together. Then you'll back off about 1/4 round. And this is kind of like a jam nut here that tightens it down. These little things were what greases the joints on the grist mill. You would take this little cap off and pack grease in there, screw this up, and while it's full of grease, you can take that and twist it. As you turn it, it'll press the grease in there, and when it gets all the way down, you have to loosen it back up and fill it back up with grease. This is the F-30 engine, Farmall engine we were discussing when we were on the inside of the grist mill. This engine is actually the same cubic inch engine as the F-30 tractor down under the tractor shed. But this engine actually pulled the grist mill. You'll see pulleys under the shelter there that actually come back and ran a big planer. It looks like about a 2-foot planer. And all of this was done off of this one power unit. In the South, most all corn cribs were built up off of the ground. Wharf rats were real bad in the South to get in around your corn and get in it and just ruin your grain. So a lot of the farmers would get their crib built up high enough and build a fence on the back and have a hog pen on the back. And the reason they cut the notch in the log is the hog grew. It could still get under there. It might be a sow with pigs, so it could still get under there. And the purpose of a hog under the crib, if wharf rats bored holes and built nests under the crib, the hog would root the rats out of the ground and kill them and eat them. And that's the purpose of the notch in the log here, was to let the hogs get under the crib. This is, if you'll notice, built out of very heavy logs. And what farmers did, if they needed to clean off a field, they just go out and cut these trees, bring them in and cut the notches, whatever how they wanted to build their building, and set these logs in here, and it made a real strong, sturdy building. Then you could build other sheds off to the side if you wanted to. This was originally probably for cows, to have a cow in there to milk. It'd be very handy for them. Back on this side was the mule barn. They had mule stables. They had a better barn than a lot of people did in the South. Mules are bad to eat up the lumber on a barn, but this had a lot of masonry blocks in it. All of these blocks were actually, they had the machine to make these blocks here on the farm. This is the last bale of cotton that was baled in the cotton gin over here, and you'll see the steel bands around it. They put a kind of I guess you bought this to go around the bale of cotton. It was sometimes you'd see them that was like a burlap bag, and this is woven a little coarser, but it just went over it, and then that press pressed it in. But this was the machine here that would actually, this would open up these hooks on each side and catch that bale of cotton, and you could get it off of the ground and weigh that cotton. You'll notice this wood frame here, this is what was known as a fodder frame. Now fodder was where we pulled the blades of corn off and tied them up into hands, and then you came back when they cured and put 4 hands into a bundle. You could stack this on a wagon, and it was very light. This sat on the wagon bed. As the bed comes up, you can see the notches here, and this went out over the bed, which gave you a lot more room to stack your fodder, or you could stack your hay on it, either one. And that was considered in the South as a fodder frame. Over to my left is a seed house. Now how the seed got here, if you'll shine up to the little tin, there was a pipe coming out of there and they had it supported with timbers down to the pipe coming out of the brick shed on the side. And that mill gin blew those seed up in this building. The big pipe elbow coming out of the top up there just blew lint and dust out. And they just came out on the ground. This is where the bale of cotton came out. They'd roll it with hand trucks up to this area. Then it could be loaded onto a wagon for a man to take it on home. When a farmer would bring his cotton in on a 2-horse wagon similar to the one that's sitting on the scales, he would pull through here, pull in on the scales, and have it weighed, and the scale marker is on the inside of the building. Then they took this big hose here and it vacuumed the cotton off of the wagon, blew it into the gin, and he knew how many pounds he had. If the farmer wanted to retrieve all of his seed, he'd pull his wagon around and just back it back under this funnel over here, and the seed would blow out and just blow right back into his wagon. Now, cotton seed, you could also run them through the gin, and it would take all the lint off of the seed and crack the hulls and get the actual seed out of the pod. Then you had 2 different items. You had what you call cotton hulls, and that was fed to cows for a roughage. And then you had the seed that you would use to replant, or you could carry the seed and make cottonseed meal out of it and feed it to the cows as well, which is a real high protein feed. This is actually the scale mechanism for the drive-on scale out here, where you would weigh the wagon load of cotton, and then of course you had a little bench here, you'd put it down, a little board there, you could stick it up, and you'll see these ropes, they open and close these pipe. You'll see them hanging all in the mill, and that's what they were used for. This gin was built by Loomis, which is still in operation today. They still build gin. This is the electric motor that powered all of this gin. I have no idea what horsepower it was, but it looks like it probably weighs a couple of 1,000 pounds, or even maybe possibly more. But this was quite a installation for a company to come in and set up a gin like this. And what's so amazing is how they got all of these heavy pulleys and gears and all up in the upper area, and the steel We have forklifts today that move things and set them up, but it amazes me as to how they would set a mill up like this. This is the cotton presses here that actually these go together, and these fasten back on the far side over there, and that cotton is pressed, and then it puts the steel bands around it, and when you get the cotton pressed and ready to come out, you just open these doors, and this whole table here rotates around. This will actually rotate around, and you can turn it from one side to the other, and to take your cotton out where it'll be easy to move. The reason you weighed the cotton when it came in, but when you take the seed out, it's going to weigh much less because the seed is heavy. And then a bale of cotton most of the time weighed anywhere from 400 to 700 pounds.
What we are trying to continue today is to preserve all these buildings that we have, to educate the public in general what the family farm was like, and to be able to share with them and the world all of these wonderful documents that we have. And that's, you know, the process we've been going through for the last 4 years is scanning and documenting, and eventually we'll turn all these papers over to the University of Georgia, where then anybody can access them. But that, you know, kind of brings you, I guess, up to 2013. I mean, we've been here for almost 30 years now. Is that right, or has it been longer than that? Since 1985. But, you know, time goes by pretty fast around here. And we have 4 grandchildren that live here today. They're the 8th generation, which is amazing. I ask people that I have met in all of this business of heritage and agricultural history, and you know, we're still an operating farm. We have poultry houses today, so it has been continuously an agricultural farm since the late 1700s. And I get questions about that. Well, what do y'all do? You don't have anything growing? And I said, no, we don't have anything growing, but we do have poultry houses with chickens growing. So we're continuing that operation.
Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of Back to the Land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website, www.ruralheritage.com, to shop online.